Hello there, Will It Play here. In this video I'm actually going to discuss some of the problems that the iNeo 2 currently has and how to fix some of them. Now it's no secret that every new piece of hardware will have its glitches, it will have its problems. Irregardless as to if it's brand new or it's been out on the market, AMD and Nvidia have both been core situation with this. Same thing with Intel, but also Dell and other companies as well. GPD, on the other hand, as well, has had its issues. One being, of course, the keyboard being as it is. So, starting on the top of the list, I've got a bit of issues to discuss and how to fix them. Starting with the first one, the controller. This has actually been a situation that's been going on since a lot of people started receiving their iNeo 2s. Now this isn't just the 512 and the iNeo 2 itself, but also the Geek. Both of them have had a situation where the offset for their Hall effect sensor controls for the joysticks have been displaced. Some people have found it's easier just to shim off and just roll with it, but I would advise not to do this. Personally, I would just RMA it or contact iNeo for support. Now the situations where you're going to have to do this, where there is no fix, not really at least, this is one of them. The other one is Windows not being activated. There are a few systems, not many, but a few systems that got released and sent out where Windows 11 was not activated. Contact support. Screen bleed. Now screen bleed with the light, it's going to be a thing. It's an IPS display with the saturation set to 135%. My personal experience with it, this device really doesn't need its brightness set so high with how well the screen works. In fact, I found myself most of the time playing games and enjoying it outside, inside, and all around with the screen brightness setting all the way down to the bare minimum with the use of IS space. It's just easier to work with, and you don't get any light bleed from whenever you're gaming or on the go. Hard drive failures. This is going to be a double-edged sword. So the iNeo 2 has a PCIe 4.0 port for the NVMe M.2 slot. What this does is it allows you to use the maximum speeds, which is up to 7 gigabytes per second, if you have an SSD NVMe that can utilize the speeds and power. Now the proprietary one that they do have that comes with this said device isn't exactly the best thing in the world. In fact, the company that they went through for it is called Kinko, and the one that they've gone through is for the Kinko 5000. It is a PCIe 4x4, it does have trim, smart, and volatile write cache, but it does have a problem. Some people have had their NVMe drives completely fail on them within the first day, others after 1 to 2 weeks.
Here, during the time of recording this video, I did not have anything to work with when it came down to fixing the storage. As of recent, they did release a firmware update as well as a BIOS update to help fix some of the storage issues. I just thought I'd point this out before any misinformation ends up coming up.
Personally, what I did, and I saw some of the people that were having this issue with the larger storage models, I went and upgraded my NVMe drive from the Kinko 5500 gigabyte to a Western Digital Black 2 terabyte. Western Digital is a very reliable source, reliable hardware. The Kinko, on the other hand, has not. Now for the iNeo Geeks, there hasn't been any reports of hardware failure. That's because they use PCI Gen 3 hardware. Now with Gen 3 hardware, of course, you can't utilize the high speed up and down load capabilities for read and write. And it is a little bit older, but it is a bit more reliable. Another situation and glitch, yes, I'm going to say glitch, is the battery. Now there was a situation where, in fact, the battery was causing some problems. Easiest solution for this, drain the battery all the way and then throw it on the charger. Bear in mind that the system is like a laptop. It's a Windows device. So you're going to have to treat it like a laptop basically. Another situation is the SD card slot. Now, in some cases, the SD card slot might not be sitting properly. This does happen with a few devices, especially since we're talking about a third-party company. But I has been around for roughly since 2021. You'd figure that this would be a fixed situation. Seeing that the Ioneo Next and the Ioneo Air didn't have this problem, well, they tried to make the system as closed as possible with the least amount of screws visible. They wanted it to look sleek, like a real deal game system. And they did amazing. It's like a handheld PS3 in your hand. Makes the PlayStation Vita look like a joke as it's capable of emulating and running these things. But at the same time, not so much. The front screen is a part of another situation. But the SD card slot, either A, RMA it, get it replaced, or B, you can try to open it and tinker it yourself. I would advise against it, as the bottom piece is pretty proprietary. Same thing with the screws for the port. The door shutter, it's going to be as proprietary as well. If you can live without that door, that's entirely up to you. There's some people that have taken it completely off after opening it up and just saying that they didn't need it. Others, they RMA'd it, sent it back to Aya and said, hey, this isn't fitting too well, can we fix this? And in some cases, they'll send you a replacement device or parts so you can install it yourself. So, another thing that's really on everyone's mind, since the unboxing video that I posted up and everybody else has seen it in other unboxing videos, yes, I will openly admit and openly state the whole front of the device is made of glass with the Ioneo 2. The Geek, on the other hand, has a smaller profile, so it doesn't have very much of an area, and yes, it is a complete disaster when it comes down to fingerprints. Which brings me to part 2. And part 2 is actually involving the situation with the Ioneo 2 and FIFA 23. So certain games have an anti-cheat software that prevent the game from running unless you have Secure Boot installed, or loaded up, or even enabled. So Secure Boot allows it to verify the integrity of the hardware with the software and make sure that there's no third-party software overtaking, or even in any other case, destroying your system. It's disabled for a reason, so that you can have more customability with less situations of complications. Now, if you're running a Avast antivirus on your device, you will find that Aya's software does show negative red flags, false positives, false negatives, false information. The code that they use allows it to communicate with the hardware more integrated. And with Secure Boot, it does break Aya space. And I can confirm that once you enable it without reinstalling it, Aya space refuses to run. Now, there is Hardware Controller, which is a handheld mini software that one of the developers at GPD has been developing that is universal. You can run that, not a problem. But you have an Ioneo 2. This device is supposed to be fully customizable. Run with it. Some of the complications with installing and loading up Secure Boot, which allow you to play certain games that use the anti-cheat that FIFA 23 does, is the fact that you can run the FIFA 23 in other games if you enable Secure Boot. But the flaw in doing so is Aya space will start to crash completely at random, and RGB controls for your joysticks will be disabled. Best to set them before you end up enabling it. But that said, that's pretty much every problem that we've come across so far and how to fix it. Now, another piece of advice is whenever you're installing Windows 11 again, make sure you have the Ioneo drivers loaded in the support file. There's a reason behind it. If you go to and reinstall Windows and you don't have your drivers installed, there's a lot of problems that can arise. No touchscreen capabilities, Aya space causing problems. Make sure you have a mouse and keyboard plugged in so you can load up these files. That way, whenever it's done initializing, you unplug that USB stick, it finishes up, you do your setup process, you plug it back in, you load up your drivers, and you call it a day. With that said, this is Will It Play, finally. Wishing you all a wonderful day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And keep being amazing.